Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wholehearted Loving. I'm Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Georgianna.
Today, we are going to run you through a self-connection practice that involves some body touch and sounding. Take it away, Gigi.
Okay. Have you called me Gigi on the podcast before?
I think I call you Gigi all the time.
Do you? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You've never called me Gigi Bedeman, though.
Gigi Bedeman. Okay, well, now we have a short story time. When I was little and learning how to speak English, there was the story of the gingerbread man, right? I don't actually remember the story. I get maybe somebody's trying to eat the gingerbread man. That would make
Something like
sense.
that, yeah.
But the line that my family produces still to this day is run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man, but I couldn't say these words yet. So it was run, run, as fast I can. You can't catch me. I Gigi Bedeman. So introducing Georgianna, who is also called Gigi Bedeman.
Yes, that's right. That is my new name.
It is.
And Stephanie calls me that, and it makes me smile every time.
Oh, me too. It was one of your test usernames on our Kajabi platform for our course. You might still find Gigi Bedeman in the users in the community. Now you'll know the story.
She exists. Okay. So let's I like that story. It's a sweet story. It goes well with our practice today. Let's find your anchoring point. So find where your body feels connected to a surface. At first, my butt was sitting on the ottoman, and now I'm sitting on my hands. That feels nice. And take a moment to notice your breath. And we're going to get our 10 fingers out and ready. And for some reason, I'm drawn to do this, which is just like tap the... How do you describe this?
You're tapping your fingertips together, like clapping, but just with your fingertips.
Yeah, clapping, but with my fingertips. I don't know why I'm doing it. You're doing crab pinchers. So really, this is just waking up that touch in the fingertips, however you want to do that. Stephanie's being a crab, pinching her fingers together. I'm clapping my fingertips together. And I want you to imagine you're like creating a lot of love and care in this little tapping. And then you're going to like just love tap it on your body. And I'm right now focusing on the front of my body, so the chest area.
So you're tapping your fingertips on the front of your chest with love?
With love.
Love tapping it.
Love tapping. Maybe bring a little playfulness to it, like move your hands around. Play with the speed that you tap. How slow or fast you want to go. Which spots. I mean, you could like love tap all over. You could tap on your head. I'm tapping on my head right now. Back of my neck. You could tap on your arm, but I really like to tap on the front of my body, on the chest. And we'll add a little bit of sounding to this, which is to help us be a little playful too. I remember tapping on this or tapping my kids like this, and this is what their natural reaction would be like. Ah. Yes. Do you remember doing that as a kid? Yeah. We could also thump, right? Stephanie was using her fist thumping, and you could thump on. I'm thumping on my legs, right? So you could use love tap fingers, or you could use like just gentle fists. Mm-hmm. And if we were walking down the street right now, I would fit really well in with my like Chinese elderly parents, because they just walk around like thumping and slapping different parts of their body.
Waking everything up.
Yeah. Right. And you could also try like a little cupped hand and like love slaps up and down. Really, it's just giving touch to your body.
Yeah. I also like the love slaps.
Lovely. Yeah. I like using like my fists and like doing these like sort of like on my hips and my butt. It reminds
Mm.
me of being a kid when my dad would come home. He would ask us to like just like punch on his back.
Mm.
And that would be really comforting for him.
Oh yeah. Little
Right?
free masseuses.
Exactly. So this is really using your love taps from like the simplest tiny ones of just your fingertips to using a fist or using a little bit of a cupped hand and noticing the sensation, noticing what feels good, noticing where it feels good, noticing what pace feels good for you, noticing if this feels really awkward and weird, and let that be okay if it does. I used to do practices similar to this in groups. I facilitated parenting groups every day. And I would say, just discover what feels good. If you give yourself enough time and you come in with an open mind and open heart, you're going to discover something about this that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little challenge. What have you discovered feels good?
I'm marveling right now at the difference between like in my mind I'm calling them organized tapping and Scrabble tapping. So there's something when I'm using all my fingertips at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
tap, 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 it feels like, I guess, sort of clinical. Like I think this is when I've learned anything about emotional freedom technique, it's this sort of tapping. So in my mind, I've associated that with something sort of clinical
Mm-hmm.
versus Scrabble tapping, which is like
What is Scrabble tapping? He's making up words, which is totally fine. But I just want
words.
to get us a definition.
When you initially said playful, my
Yeah.
reaction was to Scrabble tap, which is basically impersonating spiders with your fingers, with your fingertips.
Oh, okay.
I
Spider.
didn't think of it as spiders until much more recently in this exercise, but Scrabble tapping. So it's this like, haha, I'm gonna get you kind of fingers. Um, but I'm also associating this with like somatic massage. Like each
Hmm.
finger is doing something, representing something, going, there's a feeling of like direction, like we're
Yeah.
going somewhere like healthy together.
Yeah. Yeah. Neat, huh?
Yeah.
As you've been talking, and like this is really all about discovery and playfulness, I remember chopping.
Ooh, chopping.
Yes, and this would be a thing too. I think it's common in Asian massage, and my dad would ask us to do that too on his shoulders,
Yeah.
on his back. Yeah. And I'm like, oh,
This
I really missed that. I like that chopping.
chopping, this reminds me of Miss Piggy from the Muppets. I'm not sure why, but I enjoy it.
And now this reminds me of swimming lessons with my kids because I think one of the games they played was like make a pizza or something, and then like you chop things up and whatever, and you chop your hands into the water.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun. Chop, chop.
And then I go from chopping to now like I've made fists again. So what I notice is I enjoy changing it up.
Yeah.
Like I go from fingertips to fists to like the open hand to I even like hit with
Oh,
what's that
yeah.
called? The top of my hand against my back.
Yeah.
And so there's many different ways to give your body touch.
Hmm.
And this is also like opening up energy channels. It's like creating like pumping blood, right? So things
Mm.
aren't so stagnant. It's giving ourselves touch. Like this might not be like the touch, like a gentle like, how do you call this kind of touch? What do you call this? What I'm doing.
Like you're stroking this your arm,
Yeah.
soft caresses.
So yeah, that's one kind of touch, but like we were really doing Scrabble touching.
Hmm.
Japanese new word for it. And it has a different energy to it.
Totally.
And I find, and I'm curious if you find this, and I'm curious if people who are trying this, if you find this, it's very hard to be angry and like that serious when you're doing this.
Yeah.
And I think we all need some more of that in our lives. A little bit of
Yes.
playful energy, a bit more movement, more
Amazing.
touch, right? And
Yeah.
there's something about like what we're doing is we're alternating hands and we're giving proprioceptive input like touch. There's something regulating about that.
Mm-hmm.
I read this thing or watched a YouTube, and it was a drummer, and he loved drumming. And one of the things he loved about drumming, I don't think he made the connection before, is something very soothing for his body, like
Mm.
the up and down motion with alternating hands, right? And he didn't know the science behind it, but it's the bilateral stimulation, it's the cross body movement, right? And I think he said he had suffered for like decades from insomnia. And so one night he decided that in bed he was going to lay and he was going to like drum on his legs. And he was just going to tap left, right, left, right, left, right, and let his mind go to wherever. And he said, I had the best sleep of my life.
Wow.
And it's because like bilateral stimulation, it's because of the tapping sensation, right? The
Mm-hmm.
body touch input, but also I think that rhythmic element of it mimics some of the heartbeat sounding, the rhythm of the mother's heartbeat,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it causes any harm. Why not try?
Indeed. Well, and it brings presence to ourselves and our bodies, and at the same time, it's proof of that presence, right? We're bringing attention to our bodies. Therefore, we're noticing that our bodies are giving us messages, which we are then fulfilling by touching them where they want to be touched or how they want to be touched or
Mm-hmm.
moving how we want to be moved. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful, vicious cycle of self love.
Yeah, and you're starting to discover what feels good and what you like, right? A lot of people say, I don't know what the right decision is. I don't know what I like, right? And so this is a great way to get in tune to let your body know. Let your body let your body let you know what those things are.
Right? Yeah. How do you know which guy is right for you? How do you know what school you should go to, what you should have for dinner, who you should marry? Start by Scrabble tapping, and you'll
It's
soon
true.
find out.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what feels good in your body, how will you know who is, who feels good in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks,
Yeah.
Gigi.
So there was that. And then, yeah, if it feels fun and playful, make the sounding.
Mm.
The sounding is also because our throats are so constricted. We've been conditioned to keep it all in, right? Hide it
Mm-hmm.
all. Don't say the wrong thing. Only wait until it's perfect. Only wait until you're invited to speak,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty big on vibrations and sound and frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're into this sort of thing too, you can also pay attention to your chakras, your power centers, and
Mm-hmm.
notice which sounds want to come from those areas or which sounds come out of you that resonate most with which areas. Those are pretty cool things to bring some awareness to and notice the really tangible differences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to
Hmm.
describe what you're doing right now?
Oh, yes. You know, I barely even notice these things anymore. I have my hands on my heart and I am swaying, but with a rotation. I'm rotating side to
Mm-hmm.
side.
The reason why I asked you that is not necessarily for people to like follow along and do it, but it's to point out, I think what happens when you start doing things that your body enjoys, then you continue to do things that your body enjoys, right? So
Mm,
we were tapping, and then once you were finished tapping, you moved into some other body thing that your body felt good with.
mm.
And so just starting then creates this chain reaction,
Yes, the
right?
magic of doing. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you, Gigi.
Mm-hmm. Often when I work with people, they're having a hard time. They're sort of stuck in their mind with something. I don't know if you've ever experienced like just wanting to talk about the same thing over and over and over again. I definitely
Yes.
have. And how stuck that leaves you feeling sometimes.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being in that state. But I find often when we're in that state, like I'll just suggest, hey, are you open to doing a body connection practice? And people generally are. And then we do something like this, for example, not even for this long, for 30 seconds, a minute. And then we come back to that topic. And something will have shifted. The way they
Mm-hmm.
talk about it shifts. How long they want to spend talking about it from that energetic place shifts. The
Mm.
ideas and possibilities shift.
Yeah.
And that's because we're like getting out of the mind for a bit. Right? When we
Yes.
don't get out of the mind, it creates more momentum of more of the same. And then we shift momentum to something different and we come back to the same topic, has a different energy to it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a very willful person, and I can have a very hyper focused mind. And the idea of ruminating in a problem and talking about it forever is just used to be completely my way of life. And I can imagine that would have been overwhelming for me and everybody else, really. There's nowhere to go other than this place that I insist on dragging us all right now, even though it's so unpleasant.
And I'm gonna
Um,
like shut the door and lock it and toss the key, and we're all just gonna
right?
stay here in this misery together. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I experience now truly is, I mean, I still certainly have that tendency, but the underpinnings have shifted completely. So now, like, I can even feel like I've got some frustrations in my life right now that old me would have needed, be compelled to talk about forever. And I can feel the part of me that likes to express irritation, wanting to talk to you at length about all of this nonsense, but I can't even bring myself to do it. Like it doesn't have the flavor anymore. It's got this just like, oh, that's all the stuff that I don't actually want in my life. So I don't
Mhm.
actually have a bunch of energy to rehash it interminably.
Mhm. And I think it's because you grew this other muscle to enjoy peace
Yeah,
and ease, that you're like, I'm not going to ignore the things that are frustrating for me. They're still present. I still feel things. I still want some change. I'm still going to do something about it. But I don't want to spend 24/7 rehashing it because it doesn't feel good to live in that energy all the time.
totally. Yeah. And I do want to say a bit about, because this struck me the other day when I was doing laundry in our Airbnb.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want people laboring under the impression that we're both just like put together therapist types who have these tools on hand and tra la easeful life. We do have beautiful, easeful lives in many ways.
Mhm.
And I'm a person who's easily overwhelmed with existential crisis. I have a lot of time on my hands. I have a lot of awareness, which can be painful and cause thoughts and feelings to arise that without these tools, I would be adrift or an addict or something. I would be coping in some way that was unhealthy. I mean, these are among the healthiest tools I could imagine possibly having. But so I'm switching the laundry and I'm feeling some kind of way. We should talk sometime about this phrase, which I loathe, feeling some kind of way. What I was feeling was sad and a bit overwhelmed, but this flavor of like existentially overwhelmed, which is not a solvable problem. It's just something you can direct your focus elsewhere at times, right? So I'm doing
Mhm.
laundry, feeling these ways, and I'll burst into tears, not like a burst anymore. It used to be much more dramatic. Now I'm just sort of leaking and feeling these simple, sad feelings. And it was threatening to turn into a small panic attack. So I stopped and I looked for a circle and I stayed with that circle, feeling my feet, breathing, full breath in, full breath out. I found another circle, full breath in, full breath out.
Mhm.
Turned my body around completely, found a third circle, feel my feet, full breath in, full breath out. And all of the extra stuff is just kind of gone. The
Mhm.
feeling isn't gone, the sadness is still there, but it's something I can now breathe through, I can put the soap in the laundry thing. I can carry on, you know?
And you can like call someone and talk if you needed to, but it
Yeah.
didn't turn into a panic attack.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I spent a lot of my life feeling very overwhelmed and anxious and not realizing that. We had doctors telling me I had tumors or irritable bowel or whatever. I just spent a few years just like throwing up and having to stay home. And I really believe now it was just completely unmanaged existential anxiety that
Mm-hmm.
none of us had any language for or tools to work with. And who'd have thought it could be as simple as finding a circle or
Finding a circle,
tapping, Scrabble tapping.
right? Finding something red. That's what
Yeah,
helped me.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking with someone recently, and she was saying, "Thank you so much for these tools on the podcast." She's a nurse. She's like, "I use them with patients. Like before we go into any procedure, I ask them, can you feel my hand here? Can you feel your back on this? Can you notice this thing in the room? Can you notice your breath?" She said it
Oh,
makes a total difference. And she's like, I do it before I see patients. After, right? I do it with them. I do it before surgery, after surgery. And like my colleagues think I'm a freaking nut, but that's okay because I know it works. I believe it.
yeah,
And, that's amazing.
100%.
And there was a
Yeah.
kid who was got injured in a hockey game the other day, and one of the parents said, "Hey, can you come have a look?" Right, to this mom because she's a nurse. She's like, "Yeah, like I just went in there and I walked in and I did that with him because I could see that I was starting to ramp up and he was all ramped up, and so I said, before we do anything else, we're gonna do this together, right? We're gonna
Mm.
feel this, we're gonna look at this, we're gonna feel our breath, and it makes a difference."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness for simple practices that make such a big difference in our lives.
Yeah. Well, tippity tapping it out. Tapping or chopping or what did you call it? Light pummeling? What?
Yeah, I called it light pummeling. Let's go with that.
Gentle pummel. Yeah.
Yeah, that. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Immediate smiles on the face. Talk
Yeah,
about a
because
powerful state change.
it's true, right? And like I'm particularly noticing the joy and delight it brings us doing it together. Right?
Mm.
So yes, you could do it on your own. There's like it's great to do it on your own. But like what happens when you do it with someone? Like,
Mm.
I don't think you can do this practice we did today and not laugh and not smile.
Yeah.
It just comes, right? And I think we could all use more laughter and more smiling in our lives. The laughter and smiling that's genuine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Yeah, that feels like a fundamental laughter, like a childlike, genuine
Mm-hmm.
discovery delight kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, this love tapping thing, because I worked in the Netherlands for a number of years. I studied there, and we would have a lot of research coming out of Scandinavia also. And this research was about positive touch.
Mm.
And they were researching how it impacts children in the classroom. And it was fascinating to me. They said when we bring in intentional positive touch between students and peers, there's much lower bullying and much better cooperation and joy and just kids getting along and like better academic performance.
Wow.
And which doesn't surprise me, like humans need touch. But it reminded me of like little games that they would bring into schools, which would be they would play games like the car wash. So one kid would be the car and the other kid would be the car wash.
I
And
want
like
to play.
yeah, and they would sort of like just be on their hands and knees and they were the car, or they'd like huddle down and they were the car, and then the car wash person would be the car. They'd be like, okay, wash me with the soap, and then the soap would come, and then they'd like spray with water, and they would use their hands for like what the water would like swoosh around, and then like the dryer
Whoa.
thing and the polish thing, and It was so cute. And there were other ones where it was the weather. And you could be thunder, and you could be lightning, you could be rain and hail on someone's back.
Wow.
And they made them into these playful games. And I would start taking those and like bringing them to families and having the parents and the kids take turns being the car and the car wash and the weatherman and whatever. And it immediately changes a human connection. Immediately.
Yeah.
And it brings in laughter, and brings in connection, it brings in play, and it brings in nervous system regulation for both people. And it was so powerful. And I would recommend it to adults too. Like, imagine if you just said to your friend or your partner, like, let's play car wash.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you just, like, you can't help but laugh. You would laugh. We would all laugh, you know?
Yeah.
And then I had a little sad moment of realizing, like, you know, in North America, we'd probably so liability, fearful of liability, that we'd never allow something like that to happen in a school. And how sad I feel about that, you know, kids don't get to experience that. But in Scandinavia, it's a thing.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. You don't think about that too long. Let me look at a circle right now. Wow. Well, thank you. That's delightful. I might suggest that to my housemate, that we play car wash.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
so
the suggestion today from this podcast episode is find someone in your life who you trust to play car wash with. See what happens.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Surely something more delightful than sitting on the couch and watching another episode of whatever.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Gigi Bedeman.
You're welcome.
Now I'm going to be calling you that everywhere because people know what it means. All right. Please like, follow, and subscribe. And if anything we've said here today has been helpful for you, please share with somebody that you care about. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.